If nobody has any more questions, we do have a speaker for today, Colin Conway. He's a crime fiction author, and I didn't get exactly what you were here to speak on.
Author branding.
Author branding.
Oh,
Good. Yeah. So I'll go stoke the fire and heat up the branding iron. And let's have a warm welcome for Colin.
All right, we're going to do this a little bit of the old-fashioned maybe way. I don't have a screen to project some graphics that I wanted to be able to show you guys. So what I'll do is I'll carry around the laptop as we go, so you can see what's happening. Like Carl said, my name's Colin Conway. I write 5 different series in the crime fiction genre. They're police procedurals, amateur sleuth, private detective, a thriller series, and then I write a cozy mystery series as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get going. I was on the Spokane Police Department for 5 years. I served in the U.S. Army right after high school. Currently, I'm a commercial real estate broker, and all of that stuff will bleed into my stories from different angles. And finally, it's going to be hard for you to see, but I always share a picture of my dog, Rose. She's a Vizsla.
nice.
And she plays heavily into my branding. So she appears on my website, she appears in my social media, and she also gets mentioned occasionally in my newsletter. Okay, everybody got a decent look at what a Vizsla is? So Beth asked me to come and chat about author branding. So what is a brand? It's a non-generic name for a product. All right? So Nike, I bet you guys can imagine what the Nike logo looks like right now. You might even have some things in your head about Nike. Pepsi, can you all imagine the Pepsi logo? All right? And what about Stephen King? That's a brand, but can you imagine him, any of what his book covers look like, any of his stories? You're not in your head right there, yeah. So, some brands become so generic that they become, some brands become so successful they become generic. Okay, Thermos, Frisbee, Kleenex. I was going to ask if that one. Popsicle is another. But Jell-O. Okay, perfect. So and we're going to talk about the big concept of brand before we get to talking about author brands. Okay, so I apologize, probably should have led off with that. And you guys already mentioned a couple others. Who's heard a picture's worth 1,000 words? Probably everybody, right? Okay. Well, so is a logo. Whose logo is this?
Starbucks.
Starbucks, right? Whose logo is that? Apple. Right? And then the final one, whose logo is this?
Rolling Stones.
The Rolling Stones, right? Okay. So, brands have a personality just like we do, just like individuals do. It's reflected in everything they do. When you think of Rolex, what are some ideas that come to your mind about what that brand is?
Expensive.
Watch, expensive.
Quality.
What's that?
High quality.
Pretty. High quality, right? So, mine was quality and stylish. I don't own a Rolex, but I think that they're pretty cool. Okay, what about Microsoft? What comes to your mind when you think about them as a brand?
Glitch.
Glitch, computers. Anybody else?
Viruses.
Viruses, software. All right. And then finally, Vans. Do you guys know what Vans are?
Oh, I do.
Shoes, right?
Yeah.
What about those shoes?
Slip-ons.
Slip-ons?
Skateboard.
What's that?
Skateboard.
Skateboarding, right? I thought of it as youth, fun, and cool. All right. My son loves his Vans. Doesn't want to wear much of anything else. It's Vans all the time, even if we go to something important. So customers buy with the eye. That's a real estate concept, and actually it's probably bleeds over into all different variety of genres. But have you ever sold a home and somebody tells you, hey, focus on the curb appeal, because as soon as a potential buyer shows up, they're making a decision to buy. And if the house doesn't look put together, or the yard is dead, there's dog poop in it, people are going to be turned off right away before they ever get inside the house. Okay? So companies consider everything when they're looking at their products. And I'm going to show you a couple here right now. Pringles. I think that's an iconic product, right? If you were in the grocery store, you could probably walk into the potato chip aisle and not even have a name on that can and figure out what it was, right? So another one is the Big Mac box. Okay. You don't think so? Okay. Well, everything, if you go get a Big Mac, and I'm not talking about the quality of the hamburger if you don't like the hamburger, but if you go look at that, every side of that thing has got advertising on it. Okay. They're gonna talk to you while you're eating. They're gonna talk to you while you're passing it out to your kids, all that. And then the final one is my favorite. This is one of the most iconic vehicles out there. It's the Jeep. Yeah. Okay. I'll come back here a little bit further so you guys can see. Right. And the reason I like it so much is I've got one parked out in the parking lot right now, so I'm a big fan. So now, we kind of touched on some big concepts here. We're going to move into the author brand itself. So your author brand starts with your name. How is your name uniquely you? Do you use a pen name? Why or why not? We talked about this in a little bit more depth. However, if your name is John Smith or Jane Smith, that might be a little bit too bland.
Yeah.
And before Arnold Schwarzenegger was a household name, that Hollywood thought that was too fancy, and they wanted him to change his name. Okay. So it starts with your name. If you're writing in multiple genres, you want to have a different. Let me back up. Your author brand is the promise you make to your readers. Okay. So if you're writing in different genres, you don't want to confuse them. Fans of your sweet romances, and who writes romances here? Anybody?
Well,
You do? All right. Sweet romances, right? So fans of your sweet romances might be a little bit upset if they read your horror books. Okay? So if you're going to write in different genres, if you're going to write sweet romances and you're going to write horror, use two different names, because you're going to make two different promises to reader groups. And I'm going to give you two examples from my life, which I wish I would have done differently. First is my flagship series is called the 509 Crime Stories. I probably don't have to explain what 509 is to this group. They're police procedurals. There's some violence in them. It deals with the police department. Some violence, some swearing, no sex ever on the page. That's my promise to my reader. However, my mother-in-law, she liked my writing, but she didn't want to share my writing with her friends at church because the friends at church would be upset with the swearing. So I said, well, I'm going to look at what I can write that might be interesting to her, or that she could share with her friends. And that's when I discovered cozy mysteries. Everybody know what a cozy is? Okay. That's what you write, sir? So a cozy mystery has no swearing, no sex on the page, and never any violence. Right? No violence on the page. That's the rule. So I wrote this cozy series, and the ladies at church loved it. And it's probably my biggest seller right now. However, people who come from the cozies, really liking my cozies, go read my police procedurals and see a swear word in there, they get very upset. And vice versa, the people who read my police procedurals or my private detective series, which is a little bit dark, they go to the cozies and say, what the heck is going on here? They're not prepared. So what I should have done is come up with a completely different name to deliver on that promise to the readers. I am confusing my readers a little bit. I try to ward it off in my social media and my newsletters, but it does happen. So I wish I would have done that different. Second example is I write a series with another author. We co-author, Frank Zafiro. Has he talked to you guys before? Frank's a good guy. We met on the police department. I had this idea that was going to be heavily, it's about an officer-involved shooting. I'll just go that way. And Frank rose to the level of captain. And so he has all sorts of insight, and I thought, man, this would be a great one for us to write. So we wrote this book. It's called Charlie 316, based in Spokane, and then there's a series after it. However, it's not my voice that's in the book, and it's not Frank's voice that's in the book either. It's our voice. And so what happens is that somebody will read my book and then jump into this one and go, well, that's not exactly how Colin writes. Or same thing with Frank. And so it creates a little bit of a disconnect, and I'm breaking my promise to my readers. So what we should have done is create a brand name for the two of us. Any questions on that? All right. Yes?
A brand name meaning just one guy's name?
That's right. We could have gone with Frank Conway or Colin Zafiro, and or
James or something.
yeah. We could have made up a completely different one. That way, somebody. It's like Stephen King before he was Stephen King. He wrote in two series or under two different names. Does anybody know the second name? Bachman, Richard Bachman. So, and later on, he became so well known that he put them all under his name, right? Nobody's worried about Stephen King writing horror, science fiction, or plain old mystery. That's a little bit different when you're a small or new author, right? You've got to do everything you can to make sure you're delivering on your promises to the readers. So, Coca-Cola doesn't have regular Coke, Coke lemon lime, Coke root beer, Coke water, or Coke orange juice. Instead, they have, let me see if I can get all these up here. These are all the different products that Coke has. And they don't put them all underneath the Coke name, right? Because you don't want to buy a Coca-Cola that tastes like water. You don't want to buy a Coca-Cola that tastes like orange juice, right? So, I'll just show you back here. These are the different products that Coke has. Right? So, it's important when you're thinking about your brand to start all the way at the beginning, which is your name. And then, what are your covers, your book covers? What are your book covers promising your readers? I'm going to ask you here. What does this cover tell you?
Story about a dog.
Okay, story about a dog.
Athlete's an animal.
Yeah.
Cozy mystery.
Cozy mystery, right? Okay, that's a clear, cozy mystery cover. So if you were to get into that, and there's a bunch of swear words, or a bunch of dead bodies right on dropping in the first chapter, you'd probably be upset. What about this one? What does this one tell you guys? Dark, okay. I'm backing up here for you guys. Okay. So what's this one tell you guys?
Pause in
Yeah.
order.
Yeah.
Oh, one thought.
Yeah.
Pause in order.
Yeah, but this one here, what does the second one tell you? Okay.
What's the second?
It's called
I can't see.
Greatest Enemy.
Oh, the second one.
Second one, yeah. The second one. What does the second one tell you?
Yeah.
Ooh, sci-fi murder mystery.
Suspense, right?
Suspense.
Suspense, okay. Yeah, it's written by a former Navy SEAL. He does a lot of action adventure, right? And that's what that one's tell you. What about this one? What does this tell you? Yeah, horror, right? So this one is Hell House by Richard Matheson.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, right? However, if you opened up Hell House, and there is a retired librarian walking around with her cat trying to solve mysteries, you're probably going to be upset, right? Will your reader come back and buy more if they're upset that you didn't deliver on Hell House,
Nope.
or Greatest Enemy, or Paul in Order? Okay. So we got to think about this just like those folks at Jeep who have a very iconic shape of their Wrangler, the front end, the McDonald's packaging, the big M, right? McDonald's name, and then also the Pringles can, right? Shape of the can, shape of the potato chips, right? Okay. So does the inside of your book deliver on your promise of a good story? Genre tropes? That's another one here that we touched on when we were going back and forth with Hell House, but if genre tropes, and the cozy mystery is typically a woman as the protagonist with a job that she has a fair amount of free time with, and access to law enforcement. If you're not delivering on those tropes, people tend to get a little bit upset with you. Okay? Now I'm going to share you a little bit about my cozy mystery before we go further. So I write a series called Cozy Up to Death. Or excuse me, it's Cozy Up series. The first book was Cozy Up to Death, and it's about a former enforcer of a criminal biker gang hiding in witness protection program. He's 6'3", covered in tattoos. The way I describe it is, imagine if the Sons of Anarchy crashed into an episode of Murder, She Wrote. Okay? Thank you. The problem is that because he's 6'3", covered in tattoos, anytime something happens in a new town that he's moved into, all the locals point to him. Because the cozy mysteries take place in small towns. I mean, that is the genre. You've got to have kind of this closed environment. In the very first book, I'm going to give a little bit away if you ever decide to read it. He meets a girl, falls kind of in love with the girl, but then something happens and the marshals have to move him out of town. One of the things that cozy mysteries promise their readers is a happily ever after. So if there's one constant complaint I get about my series, it's that I did not deliver a happily ever after in the very first book. I violated a genre trope. I also violated a genre trope, making it a former enforcer hiding in Cabot Cove. But that one's a lot more forgivable than the happily ever after. Okay, so that was about the specific tropes, and then error-free. You want to make sure that whatever you're giving to your reader, your buyer, your customer, is clean. And by clean, I mean error-free. Whether that's spelling errors, grammar errors, formatting errors, that type of thing. You could turn off a reader from coming back. How many of you write in series? About half. All my books are in series. The most important thing for me to do is to get somebody to enjoy book one. Because if they like book one, they'll buy book two. And if they're reading me at book 5, then they're going to stick with me all the way the rest of the series. So to do this, you have to know your audience. Okay? And one of the things to remember is you can't please everybody. I don't write sweet romance. I'm not trying to get a romance reader. I'm trying to get people who like crime fiction, and I'll fit them into the genre. The further down that funnel it goes with my different series. Okay? And so I advertise towards that group. I speak a language towards that group. I don't put in, HEA in any of my advertising. Everybody know what HEA is? Happily ever after, right? If you go and look at some romance sales copy, a lot of it will say HEA, or friends to lovers, or enemies to lovers. There's all these. I did research on this, so I don't want you to think that I'm well versed in this genre. However, those are terms that I'll never use. Okay, I use things like fast-paced, exciting action, those types of words. Things you don't often see in like romance or cozy mystery, right? There's a concept in sales that says riches are in the niches. So has anybody heard that? No. Okay. So what that means is, again, don't try to please everybody. Write what you want to write. So if you're writing about my 509 crime stories, my girlfriend did not like the fact that I said it in Spokane. She says it's too small of a town. Put it in Los Angeles, or put it in New York, or put it in Chicago. But I wanted to write about Spokane, the Spokane Police Department. And all the people who have read it have never complained that it was in a mid-sized Pacific Northwest town. So kind of figure out what is special about your book, and advertise to it or lean into it to bring readers to you, okay? And then you need to know your audience. So it's one of these things is how do you find your audience as you're actively selling? Number one, how many people have a newsletter? Okay, so that's one of the things I'm going to mention a little bit later, but I think a newsletter is very important because that's real estate you own. You don't own real estate on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest. You're borrowing that land, okay, to talk to potential buyers or potential readers. But in your newsletter, you own that. You own that list. And so have conversations, and you can find out a lot about your readership that way. You can find out, do I have a readership that's primarily female or primarily male? My readership, I'll get to this point in a second. But you can ask all these questions. The other one is, how many people are on Facebook? Okay, a fair amount of folks. Okay, all right. How many people know the difference between a Facebook profile and a Facebook page? Okay, 3. That's a couple. All right.
I think
So Facebook, it's kind of got a bad rap amongst the younger group. However, that's not where my purchasers, I'm not going to find a lot of purchasers or readers on Snapchat. I'm going to find them on Facebook. Facebook's profile is what you share with your friends and family. Okay, that's where you share, oh, hey, these are my baby pictures, or my grandchildren's baby, or my dog, and, Your business page is where you talk about your books, and maybe you recommend somebody else's book, or things like that, but you stay in the lane of what you're doing. You're making a promise to your reader. The back side of that business page, though, is a ton of information about the people who are following you and engaging with you. So for me, I know that the majority of my audience is female, 40 years old and older. I'm like at a 68% female readership. Okay? Yeah, which I thought it was, oh man, I write dude stories. Yeah. No. Women are the primary readers out there, and if they like your books, they'll follow you. But on Facebook, I can see that. I can also see where most of my audience is at. I got a pretty good sized audience in the States, and then a fairly good contingent in Australia and Canada. So this is my thought on what every author needs: a website. Does everybody have a website here? Okay, working on it. All right.
I have not.
What's that? You have one? Okay, great. So, what? WordPress. Yeah. So, imagine if you were to go do business with Bank of America, and Bank of America did not have a website. In this day and age, you would find that suspect. Okay. It's a tool that everybody's expected to have now in this world that we live in. Whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. It is really one of these things that you got to go get. And then it can be as basic as a splash page that says, Colin Conway, crime fiction author, buy my books at Amazon, or something like that. But at least people know there's some legitimacy to it. When you go to my website, it's now a store. Does everybody know what Shopify is? Okay, Shopify is a online market, and they'll provide you the platform, and then you brand it the way you want. And as I said, you guys saw my picture right at the beginning. One of the things that I put on there is this is me and Rose. And I will tell you, I can say a week. Every few days, I get an email from somebody who's either new to my books or new to the website, and they say, I love your dog, or I have a dog like, or I've had people send me pictures of their dogs. Okay, it's just a way that I'd say that most of us either have a dog or a cat, and if you have a cat, share your kitty with the world. So a newsletter. I said that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, if you're selling books with different pen names, you would need 2 websites, correct?
Yes. My recommendation would be you buy the second URL, or you can do it where it would be, my company name is High Speed Creative. I have a LLC that does my business through. And if you wanted to, you could have it go to that. It does create a little bit of a more work where you'd have to make sure you show, here's Colin Conway, here's Frank Conway, here's Curtis Conway. Curtis, my middle name. But it creates a little bit more effort. However, if you just said, hey, I have one for Colin Conway and then one for Frank Conway over here, and you could just make them simple, like I said. It doesn't have to be real complicated. But in this day and age, people are expecting you to have a website for legitimacy. Okay. Second thing I mentioned was the newsletter. I'm not going to hit that too much more because we already did it, but just a reminder that that is the real estate you own. Actually, no, I'm going to stay here for a second. On social media, I'll post little pictures or little memes, that type of thing, where anybody in the world can see and have a nice time with my Facebook business page. In my newsletter, I'm having a one-on-one conversation with a reader. So I have an imaginary is not the right word. I have a ideal reader that I am writing to, and I'm sharing information with them. And sometimes that's insight into what's going on with my writing. I give them little updates now and then, or it's what's going on with me. And I'll share one big one. My dad, a couple years ago, more than that, 3 years ago, was diagnosed with dementia. And he lived in Ohio, and I had to fly back every few months to visit him and his girlfriend before we put him into a facility. And it was a very hard process, and I kept a lot of that private. Well, when we were cleaning out my dad's office, I found a letter that my dad had started to me years ago and had never sent. And it was about, hey, I'm really proud of the writing that you're doing. Let me share a little bit about my childhood with you. And so my dad wrote this really neat letter that detailed what it was like growing up in Midwestern Ohio, some of the friends he had, some of the experiences he had, and he never finished it, and he never sent it to me. But it was so moving to me, I was like, I want to share this. I want to write this up, because it was a fun story, especially if you like the early 1950s. So I sent this. I made a blog post of that, and then I sent out a newsletter to my readership, and I explained, hey, this is what I've been going through, and we just found this with my dad. The outpouring I got from readers, and I didn't say one thing about books in there. This was just me emailing a friend and saying, this is what I'm dealing with. I hope you'll read the letter that my dad wrote. The outpouring that came back was immense, and that firmly cemented my belief in this newsletter, because people shared what they went through with their parents or their husband. One gal from Alabama shared just a really heartbreaking story about what she dealt with her husband. And then you start this communication with these readers. And this isn't mercenary. This is like, hey, I care about these folks, and I have developed some friendships with folks in Florida, Australia, one gal up in Canada. They are really sweet people who want to know more about you when you write your books. Okay? And then finally, you got to have a go ahead.
How do you, I am not, I'm barely familiar with Facebook. I know nothing about Facebook business page.
Uh-huh.
How do you go about starting something like the newsletter that you're talking about?
Yeah, that was my question. How do you do one?
Okay, yeah, and that's probably a bigger subject than I've got time for here, but I'll give you a couple pieces of advice. Number one, YouTube is a fantastic resource. Okay, so if you are interested in how to set up a Facebook business page, there's some great videos out there, some tools on that can share. One of them, I believe, is Life Marketing, Lyfe, and I've watched so many of their videos. They're fantastic. People probably half my age teaching me how to use social media. Same thing with newsletters. Do a little bit of research and see, do I want to go with MailChimp or ConvertKit? Those are the two of the bigger names right there. But there's a lot of them. And then go to YouTube and type in how to use MailChimp or how to create a newsletter on MailChimp. And then what you'll do, Carl, is you'll put basically a sign-up box on your website. And people can go to your website and they'll type in their name and say, hey, I want to know more about you. You can also put that on your Facebook page or anywhere and start collecting email addresses. Because when you get those email addresses, now I have a one-on-one conversation. Okay? I know that's not deep enough for you, but I don't know how to get. But YouTube, awesome resource. social media is the last one that I was saying. So you got to have a website. You got to have a newsletter. In my opinion, even Stephen King has a newsletter. Here's two things. If you're interested in creating a newsletter, start following other authors who have one. And my two favorite to recommend for this are Jess Lowry, Jesslourey. She's a crime fiction author from Minnesota. Her newsletters are fantastic. She'll share interesting things about, a book that's coming up or how an idea came about. And I can't say enough nice things about her newsletter. And then the second one is Craig Johnson. Does everybody heard of Longmire?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was
No?
just here in Spokane.
Yeah. Craig Johnson, go to his website, sign up for his newsletter. It's fantastic. He will take, because he's a big dog in the industry, right? He'll get questions from Sue, and Sue will say, "Hey, how did you come up with Henry Redbear's name?" Red Bear, right? And he'll take your question and then answer that in a newsletter. And it's just fantastic. There's so much amazing information in there. So anyway, moving to social media. Everybody follows everybody out there. You can follow your favorite comedian, your favorite actor, your favorite coffee company, your favorite car company. You can follow your favorite tire maker. So people are used to this. And what my recommendation would be is pick one platform and get really good at it. Don't try to be good on all of them because you will waste a lot of time. I tried that when I first started in the industry. I tried Pinterest. I was on Twitter, Instagram, and then Facebook. And I realized Facebook was where I was getting the most engagement from with my content. And then I leaned into that. However, there are some authors out there who are just killing it on TikTok. That's not me. Instagram, people are out there using Instagram and doing really well with it and getting their message out. Learn what the different platforms are and just pick one and get really good at it. Okay, so things to avoid real quick. Number one, when you're out here doing anything as your author brand, avoid negativity. Don't be one of those people who say, "Oh man, I hate this. I hate Christmas." Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of fans with "I hate Christmas," right? Or "I hate dogs." You can hate dogs all you want. Just don't share that out there. And if you want to share that on Facebook, share that on your Facebook profile, not your business page. Because your profile, you can hide and just make that for friends and family. But your business page is what everybody's going to know. Okay, so avoid negativity. Avoid politics and religion.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't care if you like President Trump, or former President Trump, or President Biden. I don't care. I care if you write a good story. However, if you start talking to me about politics on your business page that I disagree with, you might just lose a customer. All right? These are one of the things that you want to promise your readers. Okay? I promise you a religion-free, politics-free experience. Come hang out with us. We're going to be positive here. And then genre hopping. This goes back to our discussion about having a pen name. You can hop all you want as long as you have different pen names, for your horror books and then your sweet romance books, and then finally, stop making your ebooks free or cheap. Who has ever given away the free ebooks? Okay.
Well, I have once or twice, and it did really good.
Yeah, I mean, you could go and give them away.
I've had a book since 2011.
Yeah. So Sue was saying that she's done this before. It really didn't make any difference. I'll tell you, I've done a number of giveaways. I'm trying to get people to read my books. They don't read through, okay? Because they just want a free book. They don't want to buy the next book in this series. And it took me a while to realize that. Now what I do is I actually advertise on Facebook. I spend a significant amount of money every month. And those people come and they'll buy the first book or they'll buy multiple books, all right? I damaged my brand initially by giving away a lot of books to people who might not have ever picked it up. And then they started reading it, and then they gave me a 1-star or a 2-star and said, not my genre. Okay, you know. So when I stopped giving them away, all my ratings went up. My sales went up, obviously. So that's just a recommendation for me. And then a final thought: a brand is part of marketing, which is a part of selling. All right. How many of you like selling?
I have fun with it.
Yeah. Okay. Sue has fun with it. Anybody else? You like it? Okay, great. You are all author entrepreneurs, or as Joanna Penn would say, authorpreneurs. Everybody know Joanna Penn? Yeah, she's fantastic. You're in a business, and you have to learn how to sell. Whether you like it or not, if you want people to read your book, you have to convince them to pick it up, part with their $6 to $18 or however much you charge for your books, and you've got to convince them that they want to read you. All right? And that is selling. Selling isn't bad. I used to sell guys into handcuffs when I was a police officer because I didn't want to fight with them. Getting punched in the nose hurts. It's a lot easier to convince somebody to put handcuffs on. I sell commercial real estate now. So I don't have the fear of it, but I know a lot of folks do. A number of my friends, and we've had to have some conversations and try to get them over the hurdle of being comfortable with selling. All right. So kind of zoomed through that a little bit, and I apologize I didn't have the big board so you guys could see all the nifty little graphics on it, but are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So it sounds like you've monetized your Facebook page.
Yeah, so the question was, have I monetized my Facebook page? I have not monetized my Facebook page. My Facebook page, I've got, last week I passed 1,400 followers, almost up to 1,400 now. So, but what I do is I use the Facebook advertising. So I pay Facebook to put my ads out there. So I advertise my police procedural series and I advertise my cozy series. And so Facebook charges me for every impression. Do you guys know what an impression is? No. Every time you see an ad, Facebook charges the person who's doing the advertising, whether it's Colin Conway, Pepsi, Nike, or Stephen King, they charge. And then if you click it, then that's good for me, okay? Because then hopefully you'll go buy the book. But that's what I'm doing. I haven't monetized
Oh, okay.
the thing. What's that?
What's monetized?
So monetizing is when social media platforms will pay you for creating content. Trying to think here. Who's a big one on YouTube? You guys know who Mr. Beast is?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Beast. He's giving me Mr. Beast is a content creator. And years ago, my son loved him because he did a lot of crazy things, like filling a room full of M&Ms. And how many M&Ms did it take to fill this room? Okay? That guy has made hundreds of millions off of YouTube.
Jeez.
Okay? Because people come and watch his video and they stay on the platform, and then YouTube charges a company like Jeep to say, hey, let's run an ad on there. So that's how YouTube makes its money. They get all this content for free. Then they reward the content creators. Okay? So, and you can be monetized on any of the platforms. Okay? But I don't, because this is just my author page. And I'm not creating content that is general enough. It's all writing related and Colin Conway related.
Do you have your website connected to your Facebook
Yeah,
page
sure
and
do.
all that?
Yeah. So if you're on, her question was, is my website attached to Facebook? It is. If you go to Facebook and you're like, hey, these kind of funny pictures or cool pictures, or I show a lot of Spokane, you can click the button right there that says go to my website, and so people can go there. Yes, ma'am.
I have my website as a sign up for people to go to my Facebook page.
Mhm.
That's just the opposite, right? Kind of.
On your website, you take them to your Facebook page?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's
Well,
not.
they can sign up for follow my Facebook page.
Yeah. Did I repeat her question? I'm sorry. Her question was, she has her website connected to her Facebook page where people can go sign up for Facebook. Is that wrong? That was her question.
No.
And no.
Is it different than Facebook directing to my website?
No. So the thing is this, is that all the web that you can create out there, the better. Okay? So on your website, you allow people to, hey, go buy my books, or if you want to know more about me, follow me on Facebook and whatever. Facebook you can go on the Facebook page and add your website, and then that links back. And then hopefully on your Amazon page, you tell people how to get to your website. And then on Goodreads, you tell people how to get to your website. And on BookBug, you tell people how to... Does everybody know what BookBug, Goodreads are? Okay. They're a review aggregator. Okay, any more questions? Yes, sir.
Does everything you say apply to nonfiction as well as fiction? I mean,
Yeah.
For example, you said, don't say anything about politics, but I don't. But what if you write about politics?
Then you need to lean into that niche, right? But, so his question was, did what I just talked about also go towards nonfiction? And yes, it does, okay? And if you're, who's the Fox guy, the commentator?
Gutfeld?
No, I'm trying to think of the big guy. I don't watch a whole lot of news.
Hannity.
Hannity, right?
Hannity.
Hannity is going to write a lot of politics, okay? And to be fair, let's say Rachel Maddow on the CNN or MSNBC, she's going to write a lot of politics, and that's what people are going to, and that's what they want. You're not coming to Colin Conway to read a crime fiction series where I start spouting off my personal beliefs. But if you're writing nonfiction, yeah, and you don't have to change your pen name if you're writing a lot of things in the nonfiction world. However, I would recommend you think about getting a different pen name or using a pen name if you start writing Hell House, right? Because somebody is going to be interested in your whatever. What do you write in nonfiction?
Economics.
Okay, so you write economics, and then somebody sees your name and goes, "Oh man, I'm going to click on this," and it's a horror book. So you just broke a promise to your reader. That would be.
I don't know, economics can be.
All right. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Our current economy proves that, yeah.
But you still want to have your website, your newsletter, your branding. You want to always think about what am I projecting to my readers out there. So that was a good question. Anybody else?
I got another
Oh,
question, so.
I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all my writing involves a lot of research in various areas. I don't have time to sell my book. How do you go about getting somebody to sell it for you?
If you did that, you would probably make a lot of money. Because the thing is this, is that everybody's required to sell their book. Everybody. So Stephen King may not run his own website and sell books from his website. However, Stephen King does a ton of interviews. Anytime something new is coming out, he's making the rounds. He's talking to folks. Sean Cosby, S.A. Cosby, anybody know? Heard that name? He's kind of the big name in crime fiction right now. He went on The Tonight Show. He went on a tour of bookstores. So even if you've got the biggest publisher out there who's putting a ton of money behind you with advertising, they still want you to go out and sell. They want you to have a social media presence. They want you to have a newsletter. So this is the world we're in. I know. I understand what you're saying. Trust me, time is limited because of my writing, my commercial real estate business. However, I have to make time to sell.
I think what it kind of means is, how could he get someone to run a website or whatever and do that stuff for him?
Yeah.
Set it up. for
Oh,
him.
that's how you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You can hire somebody to run your website, but that costs money.
Yeah.
So you're a business, and you have to figure out what am I willing to farm out. I do not design covers. I'm a writer. I pay people to do my covers. I pay for editing. I pay for I pay for my advertising. Okay. However, I'm still required to sell. And are you indie? Independently published, self-published? We all are, right?
Well, right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you put on that hat of sales. And so if you need to go hire somebody to do the website, you can do that, but that is a cost. And now you have to figure out how do I fit this into my business. I learned how to go to certain companies. Squarespace was one. That was the one I started with before I went to Shopify. Got a thumbs up here. Squarespace is basically a drag and drop onto the website. And it's very simple for me to set up. And for years, all I did was I tinkered with that website, and I got a little better and a little better. And then when I decided I want to do my own store, I went to Shopify. And that's a significant amount of time. So don't start there if you're not ready to put a lot in. Your question?
I had a question that's not related to this directly, but what would you say is the difference between using a blog and using a newsletter?
Okay.
Or do they need both?
And that's a good question. So Sue just asked, what's the difference between a blog and a newsletter? Do you need one over the other, or do you need both? Okay? So the blog is for everybody to read. Everybody out there on the internet can find you and can comment on your stuff, right? A newsletter is a private conversation I'm having with you. There might be other people who are part of this conversation, but it's a private conversation I'm having with you, very much like a sent a letter. Christmas letters. Have any of you ever sent an annual Christmas letter out?
Nope.
Yep.
That's your newsletter. Okay, that's your personal newsletter. You're sending it to all the people you know, and you can have a shorthand with that. You can say, "Oh, Rose and I went to the park today," and people won't think. If I say that in my newsletter, people aren't going to think, "Oh, that's his girlfriend," right? They're going to know that's my dog. And if I say, if I gave a treat to Rose later on, and people would be really. I don't have to explain to everybody that's on my newsletter that Rose is my dog. Okay? Now, the good thing about a blog is it's evergreen content, which means that you post it and it'll always be there, and then you can refer to it again and again. Sometimes I have a blog. Sometimes I'll mention it on my social media to drive folks to the website, and it's an old post, something that I've written 4 years ago or something, but maybe it's got some relevance today because of something that popped up in the news. The other thing is that blogs don't have the power that they used to. 20 years ago, everybody was jumping around the internet trying to find information and get to the blogs. Well, now they don't have the same amount of power. I have my blog, as I said. I write to it maybe 6 times a year now, maybe, but I try to get an author newsletter out every week. I do. Now, you don't have to. What you have to do is you have to come up with something that is good for you. Some authors will send a newsletter every day. And that's like Tanya Cappies. Tanya Cappies is a cozy mystery writer, and she kills it. And her audience can't get enough of her. Okay? And so she's got emails coming every day. Other people like Craig Johnson with Longmire, he posts maybe 8 times a year, a little bit irregular, probably around the time his books start coming out, or is due out. Me, I've got 5 different series, and I'm trying to communicate all these different things to folks. And I don't, in your newsletter, you're not always saying, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. It's, hey, these are the things that I'm battling with, or these are the things that I'm experiencing. I took a trip down to the Moab, down in Moab to the, just drew a blank on the 2 national parks down there. I shared that with my readers. Arches. And then what was the other one? Canyonland. So I shared those pictures and those stories with my readers. And then they said, oh man, I've been to that one, or I've been in another national park, So I recommend the newsletter over the blog. Okay, that would be my point. Oh, one final thing though. However, with your blog, what you can do is you can send your letter out to your newsletter first, because it's a relationship. Let them read it first, and then a week or 2 later, put it on your blog. Take out, some good stuff. But I have done that in the past, where I'll say, "Oh, this is something I want to share on the blog," but I don't want to share the stuff that makes it more of we're a friendly group, we're an intimate relationship on this newsletter.
I'm just curious how the Shopify thing works. Do you have a warehouse and have somebody shipping books out as orders come in, or how does that work?
Kind of. So Carl's question was, how does Shopify work? And there's all sorts of groups out there. I'm not in any way affiliated with Shopify except for I give them money. There's a group out there called PayHip. You can find them. However, what happens, Carl, is this, is that if you come to my website and you buy a book, if it's digital, it'll go to a company called BookFunnel. Has everybody heard of BookFunnel?
Yeah.
They deliver links or download, digital products. And so I sell my ebooks and the audiobooks through that so people can buy it. And then if somebody wants to buy a paperback, it goes to a company called Book Vault. Book Vault is kind of like Ingram Spark. Everybody know what Ingram Spark is? Okay. But Book Vault will take that order, they'll print it just like Amazon does, and then they'll send it out. However, they're not taking any of the profit like Amazon does.
Yeah.
So if I sell a book for $18 and the printing cost is $4, I just make $14, as opposed to Amazon taking a large brunt of it after I get my after I pay their cost of print. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Two things. When you mentioned the websites and who could do them, twice for businesses I've had, I've gone to the colleges to find classes that are building web pages.
Yeah.
And ask if one of their students can do it as a project.
That's
and I've had two of my web pages done that way.
Hold on just for a second. Did everybody hear that comment? That was a fantastic comment. Sorry about interrupting.
And the other one is, I have a blog. I don't really do it like maybe once a year or something. And it's got, like you said, the evergreen content. So when people call me or contact me about how do I do this, I have it on my blog, and I can just refer them to the blog, and it tells them how to editor and how to get book covers and basically all the steps they can do, and I can just always refer them without having to review the content every time.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's perfect for the evergreen. Some of the things that I have on my website are why I wrote Charlie 316, why I wrote Cozy Up to Death, why I wrote The Side Hustle, which is the first book in the 509 crime stories. And then I put that on a social media post every 4 to 6 months. I'll put one out there, right? So people who just started following me will say, oh man, if I want to go read more about this, I can jump to that website or to that blog and get more. So, good point. Anybody else? All right.
I just want to say thank you for such a well-organized presentation.
Oh,
this was really good.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.